Hello, Best Recaps here. Today we will talk about a story in which a teenager gets trapped in a time loop, reliving his day before he has his first time. So today we will see Premature. While having a dream about a beautiful lady on top of Rob Crab, a senior high school student, he wakes up when his mother Anne suddenly enters his room. Anne is embarrassed to see her son almost naked and asks him to put the sheets in the laundry. And when she leaves, Rob looks down and realizes why he acted that way. Then Rob prepares to go to school and talks to his father, Jim, about his interview to be admitted to Georgetown University. Jim gives Rob his old headband from when he rode on the Georgetown team and is sure that his son will make him proud. On the way to school, Rob timidly greets his classmate Lisa, but the girl simply ignores him. Then Rob's friend Stanley falls off the roof and casually walks towards him with his bicycle, telling him how Lisa had a good time with him. He also asks Rob if he's ready for his interview and what he would do if he failed it. However, Rob doesn't answer him, and they decide to go to school. Once they are on campus, Rob and Stanley greet their other friend Gabrielle and their smart neighbor Arthur. A teacher, Mr. Shoe X, also talks to them, but Arthur asks him for money in exchange for doing his election plan. Before going to class, Gabrielle and Rob discuss their plans for the night. They want to have some beer while watching the spelling bee, but as they talk, Rob can't help but notice a girl named Angela. Unfortunately, Rob gets wet when a volleyball player, Tommy, decides to bother him. They are surprised that the volleyball players are bothering them. When the players leave with their friends, Rob realizes that he's not wet with water. Then, Gabrielle indicates to Stanley to go to the Lost and Found and finds a new pair of pants for Rob. Gabrielle also reminds Rob to stay calm during his interview and tells him that everything will be fine, before finally heading to her classroom. Moments later, Stanley gives Rob some ugly shorts. Then, he tells Rob's classmate to move to another table, despite the tutor's protests. After that, he advises Rob to relax. However, Angela has just entered the library and she approaches Rob, asking if they could schedule an emergency tutoring session at her house that night. However, Rob refuses because he's supposed to meet Gabrielle, and he had already made plans with her, which saddens Angela. But Stanley intervenes and tells Angela that Rob will reevaluate his schedule and get in touch with her. Angela appreciates that. And before leaving, she tells Rob she likes his outfit. Then Stanley convinces his friend to meet Angela that night and ditches Gabrielle, but Rob refuses. Later, during class, Rob is called to the principal's office. In the hallway, Rob explains to Gabrielle why he only wears gym shorts and walks with her. Rob is nervous about his interview, but Gabrielle is confident he will make it. During his interview, Rob apologizes to the interviewer Jack Rode for his torn pants. Fortunately, the man doesn't mind, and he doesn't see what Rob is drawing on his notes when he crumples the paper. He tells Rob to answer his questions honestly, but suddenly cries when he remembers his late wife. He continues to interview Rob while sobbing and asking Rob about his tutoring and talking about the woman he loves, not knowing what to do. Rob gives Jack his father's headband and he uses it to wipe his nose. Moments later, Rob informs Stanley that he failed his interview. However, Stanley tells him he can still get into Georgetown and adds that if he can't, he should focus on Angela. So Rob approaches Angela and tells her he can be her tutor before canceling his plans with Gabrielle and saying he doesn't feel like it. Rob feels bad for lying to Gabrielle, but Stanley doesn't really care about that. Instead, Stanley wants Rob to think about his night with Angela. Unfortunately, Rob is hit by a car on his way to Angela's house, but the driver doesn't help him and just drives away. When he arrives at Angela's house, Rob is confused when he sees a man smoking on the porch. The guy named Uzi asks if he's there to see Angela, so Rob tells him he's her tutor. Then Angela comes out and invites Rob to her room, asking him to sit on her bed. When Angela touches Rob's thigh, he suddenly jerks and spills wine all over her. Because of this, Angela changes her clothes and confesses that she only asked Rob for help because she enjoys studying with him. Eventually, Angela kisses Rob, but when the girl puts her hand in his pants, he wakes up in bed just as his mother finds him. Rob isn't sure how that happened, but proceeds to get ready for school, only to be more confused when his father talks to him about his interview. Then, he hands over his old headband, and Lisa ignores him once again. He then touches Stanley's face while sharing the same story about Lisa, leaving his friend bewildered. Once they arrive at school, Rob observes his surroundings and notices that the same things that happened the previous day are happening again. However, this time, he manages to avoid Tommy when the guy first tries to soak him with a water gun before getting wet. Then he says he will only wear his gym shorts when Gabrielle asks Stanley to go to the Lost and Found again to find him a pair of pants. In the library, Rob tells Stanley that he had a dream about that day and adds that Angela wants to sleep with him, as if it were a sign. Angela approaches them and asks Rob to be her tutor that night. She also shares with Stanley in class that she failed her interview and ruined her time with Angela. During her interview, she only sees Jax cry. Afterward, Rob goes to the clinic and explains to the nurse what is happening, only to leave when one of the patients suddenly vomits. Then Rob receives a text message and realizes that he didn't cancel his plans with Gabriel. Unfortunately, he is hit by a car again and sees Aussie watching him with Angela, while it ends prematurely for the second time. Everything that happened the other day is repeating from the beginning. He then manages to dodge the car by himself, only to be hit by another one. At the same time, he is back with Angela and can't help but feel frustrated when he wakes up in his bed. So Rob goes to Stanley's house and finds Lisa. Then after learning about Rob's dream, Stanley says that his chastity is driving him crazy. Rob is scared because everything feels too real. And then Lisa points out that it sounds like a delusional disorder and adds that he just needs some antipsychotic pills. However, Stanley thinks Rob will be fine. When his mom finds Rob again and immediately tells her husband what's happening with their son, Robert listens to everything and tries to think about his recurring dream, realizing what happens. Next, he takes his laptop and goes to an adult's site, having some fun and repeating the day. When his mother enters his room and tells him he'll start doing his own laundry. At school, Rob rushes to talk to Gabrielle, who wonders why he dressed casually for the interview. Then Rob tries to tell Gabrielle about his problem, but when Tommy shoots him with a water gun again, he completely loses it and breaks the athlete's toy. Gabrielle stops him immediately, but Rob is too angry and insults the volleyball players for their bad behavior. Unfortunately, the athletes get too offended, so they decide to chase him through the hallways. While Rob runs, he tells Angela that he can't be her tutor before locking himself in a classroom. However, the guys eventually find him, and after seeing something written on a chair, Rob decides to have some more fun. The athletes can't believe what's happening, but when it finally ends, he wakes up in his bed and ignores his mother, despite feeling embarrassed. Rob is relieved that nothing happened. Before going to school, Rob asks his father why he wants him to go to Georgetown. Jim then says he met Anna there. Hearing that, Rob tells him he doesn't need a pep talk for the interview and leaves. Then Stanley and Gabrielle can't help but notice the changes in behavior when they greet each other at school but simply try to ignore the moments. Later, Rob pushes a golf cart down the hallway, feeling like he can do whatever he wants. Then, when the hallway monitor stops him, Rob asks a girl who sneaks out of her classroom to kiss him so he can keep having fun. He also invites Gabrielle to smoke with him on a school bus, where they talk about how they became friends. Rob uses the faculty restroom and leaves Mr. Hughes disgusted. Later, he punches Jax during his interview and lets the guy go in the golf cart, which makes Stanley worry about it. Then, Rob reveals to Stanley that he already told him what's happening to him. Rob decides to bother his teacher, and in the cafeteria, he hits a girl named Sally for what she did to him when they were kids. Unfortunately, Sally retaliates, and it isn't long before Rob finds himself lying on the ground getting repeatedly punched. Rob tries to stop Sally, so the girl decides to kick him in the groin several times. Due to what happened, Rob is taken to Principal Hansen's office, where the principal tells Rob that the police will come for him and informs him of what he did to Sally, the teacher, and even the hallway monitor. Principal Hansen also tells Rob that his parents are on their way to the school, leaving the boy desperate to escape his situation. Without another option, Rob decides to have fun again and immediately runs out. When the principal sees what he's doing, seconds later, Stanley saves Rob from Sally and takes him to the girls' locker room. He instructs Rob to hide in one of the stalls, and Rob immediately tries to have fun again to reset his day. Unfortunately, it's difficult for Rob to finish, so Stanley tries to help by speaking to him as if he were a girl, but that seems quite strange and odd. Rob soon realizes it doesn't make sense and decides to give up. However, Sally kicks Rob in the groin before he can leave, and strangely, this causes his day to reset again. When Rob wakes up in his bed, he curses so loudly that his mother thinks he's talking to her. Later, when he goes to school in a bad mood, he cancels his plans with Gabrielle and ignores Mish and Tommy when he runs into them. Stanley can only try to support his friend and says he'll do anything for him. So Rob hugs his friend and feels a bit better. After that, Rob agrees to tutor Angela that night. Then he's called to the principal's office for his interview, but this time, Gabrielle isn't waiting for him in the hallway. Unfortunately, Rob has no desire to answer Jack's questions and deliberately misses his chance to get into Georgetown. That night, Rob visits Gabriel at her house and reveals what's really happening to him. Unfortunately, Gabriel doesn't believe him, so he asks her to tell him a secret that only she knows the next day so she can believe him. The indie tells her fantasy about Abraham Lincoln, so she realizes he's telling the truth when his day resets. Then, he suggests seeking help from Arthur and goes to his house with Rob, where the boy's grandmother attacks Rob while shouting an extra word, when Rob accidentally loses his balance and falls on Arthur's grandmother, rendering her unconscious. However, the old lady isn't done and attacks Rob again, so Arthur's mother and Gabriel intervene between her and the boy. At the same time, Arthur's mother keeps clashing with Rob, causing the day to reset again. At school, Rob forces Arthur to help him with his problem and follows them to the bathroom. There, he puts Arthur's head in the toilet bowl and asks him what the word his grandmother mentioned means. The boy says he believes it means a curse. Then Rob wants to know how to break this curse, but Arthur says he has no idea how to help him. After letting Arthur go, Rob reveals to Gabriel and Stanley that he's cursed. He also tells them that his day will keep repeating and mentions Gabriel's dream about Abraham Lincoln. He adds that he already told her about his problem the night before. Meanwhile, Stanley points out that a curse is the universe, trying to make a person correct a cosmic error. He advises Rob to figure out what caused the curse to start and fix it. With that, Rob realizes he needs to deal with Angela. Moments later, Rob tells Angela in front of her classmates that they'll see each other that night, leaving Gabriel disappointed. He then asks Stanley to teach him all the seduction tips before going to Angela's house. Unfortunately, he soon realizes that Angela only wants him to do her homework, and he also realizes he's not supposed to be there. Outside, Rob finds his father waiting for him and learns that his father knows he failed the interview. Then, his father takes him to a hotel to meet a depressed Jack, who asks him to bring a Scotch whiskey. So James goes briefly to get their drinks, and when he returns, Jack asks him why he wants Rob to go to Georgetown. Without hesitation, the father says that going to Georgetown was a transformative experience in his life and reveals that Georgetown gave him a scholarship. After that, Rob gets up to order more drinks and watch a spelling bee on television. Then he realizes he likes Gabriel and confesses to his father that he doesn't want to go to Georgetown. With no other choice, Jim supports his son and gets ready to go with him, and Jack also joins them as they head to Gabriel's house. A few minutes later, Jack and Jim help Rob get into Gabriel's room through a window. Rob explains to Gabriel and tells her that he didn't sleep with Angela. She wants him to leave, but he says he's not going anywhere. Angry, Gabriel tries to make Rob reset his day and takes off her shirt to get him to leave her alone, but her father surprises them, embarrassed. Rob clarifies that he hasn't tried to take advantage of his daughter. In front of Gabriel's father, Rob tells Gabriel how much he likes her. However, Rob is aware that he has wasted his chance to be with Gabriel and starts to leave through the window. Meanwhile, Gabriel's father shyly admonishes his daughter, telling her that this boy is the right one, but she tells him she would feel more comfortable discussing it with her mother. Once her father is gone, Gabriel stops Rob from leaving and asks him to watch the spelling bee with her. Eventually, they kiss. When Rob finishes, he can't believe he's still in Gabriel's bed. Finally, Rob realizes that he has broken the time loop and says he's right where he's supposed to be.